After a lot of doubt and a lot of junk talk to being talked about him, Cade Klubnik is finally getting just a little bit of respect put on his name.
You are Locked On Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Locked On Clemson podcast. I'm your host, John Bivens. You can find me over on Twitter right here at I am John Bivens, or over at the Tiger Wire at the Tiger Wire. Over on X, you can find us there. We are a credentialed media member for Clemson University, where we are credentialed in baseball, football, and basketball. Thanks so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast at, and over on YouTube, where we are part of the amazing Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. And here on the Locked On Clemson podcast, you're getting three things. You're getting all sports, all passion, all of the time. We are so glad that you're joining us. Today is June 13th. We're going to talk about some Clemson quarterback play. We're going to talk about Cade Klubnik, where he ranks. We're also talk about QBs of the future when it regards to Clemson. And then we're also going to finally finish up this episode with the Turbulent Thursdays. We're going to talk about all that and so much more. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And so Clemson roster for 2024 is set. Transfers are there. We're not going to bring in any more. We're not going to close anymore. We still, I guess, could bring in a transfer if, like, say a school's head coach retires or moves to NFL or something like that. Then we still could bring in one because the portal opens for 30 days after that coach leaves. So that could still happen. But considering Clemson didn't bring any transfers in during the actual window, I doubt that's going to happen. So we're almost positive our roster is set. And our quarterback roster, our room for 2024 is pretty set. So who our quarterbacks are, we've talked about it before. We're going to recap it. Our third string quarterback, some people are saying should be our first string. I disagree. Is Trent Pierman. He's a walk-on from right around the Clemson region. Really not a lot of people talked about him until that spring game. Once that spring game came into play, people really started getting some respect on him, started talking about him, had a couple great plays there. We also have Christopher Vinzenia. He's a great quarterback. He is talented. He's got a lot of potential, but we're not sure if he's going to be able to get seen at Clemson because it feels like Dabo's pretty locked in with Cade. So unless Cade just gets hurt or Cade decides to leave or Dabo just decides he's had enough of watching him play and his play doesn't improve, Christopher Vinzenia, probably not going to see much of his style. And then, of course, our starting quarterback is Cade Klubnik. Cade is coming in as a junior. Freshman year, he only started one game, which is the bowl game. Had that excellent ACC performance after the DJU was benched. But last year, he started his first full year, and it was the first year Clemson did not win 10 games in a long time. So a little bit of struggles. There's been a lot of doubt on Clemson. Really, Clemson fans, as you know, are probably very split. A lot of fans are like, yeah, let's go with Cade. A lot of fans are like, let's get him out of there. So there's a split there, but that's our quarterback room for 2024. I feel comfortable with it. I feel like Cade, yes, he made some mistakes. He was to blame for some of our lack of success last year, not living up to our potential and our desires. He was partially to blame, but I think a big reason he was to blame was our offensive line was rough, and he also didn't have a lot on the wide receiver room of help there. So both those spots have been increased dramatically. Both those spots are very much in a better spot than they were last year. So excited about that. I think Cade's going to make a huge jump forward. But if you follow college football media, if you stay in tune with the college football, you've probably heard a lot of people sleeping on Cade. When you look, some platforms have put out like a ranking ACC quarterbacks right now, and some platforms have Cade outside of the top 10 when it comes to quarterback in the ACC. That's ridiculous. That is just complete garbage take. Can't have that. But a lot of places are putting him not high at all when it comes to Clemson University, when it comes to our quarterback. They have him pretty low. Some people have him like plus 50. Some people have him higher than that. Like, he is not getting a lot of respect, and I get it why. Clemson University went through a period where they had the best quarterback play in the nation. From 2016 to 2020, we had the third best QBR ranking, our quarterback ranking. In all of FBS, we had the third best, only behind, I think we were behind Georgia and possibly Alabama. So great quarterback ranking. We had, of course, that was Deshaun Watson and a little Kelly Bryant and Trevor Lawrence. So great plays, right? That was exciting. That was great. Then from 2021 to 2024, things were very different. From 21 to 24, I think we ranked like 73rd in all of FBS for QBR. So much different, right? Very, very, very different there. Very different when it comes to what our QB ranking was, what it is. So there's that going on. There's like a difference between what we used to be and what we are now. There definitely is a statistical difference in our quarterback play. But people aren't given the chance for Cade to come back and be better. But they're not looking forward to him. They're doubting his ability. When you look at him, he's an athlete. When you look at him, he checks all the boxes. The biggest question mark is his mentality. Can he stay focused? Can he make the right reads? Can he stay inboard? So a lot of people have not put him even in the top 20 as far as top quarterbacks in the FBS this year. But Sports Grid, which is a great sports network, they post a lot of different things about all different kinds of stuff. 3 days ago, over on Monday, so 4 days ago, they put out projecting the top 100 college football rankings of 2024. So this is not where quarterbacks stand now, but it's where they will stand at the end of 2024. And they had Cade Klubnik much higher than a lot of people would say. I mean, a good significant higher. When you look at other ACC quarterbacks on this list, there wasn't too many ahead of him. Ahead of him on the list, there was only two other ACC quarterbacks. They had Miami's quarterback. He was a little bit ahead of him. They had him at number 8, Cam Ward. He's a transfer coming in from Washington State, playing for Miami this year, so they had him at number 8. And then they had ACC quarterback his whole career, but in the new school this year, Riley Leonard. Riley was excellent at Duke last year, played really well for him, but he's transferred over to Notre Dame. They have him at 12th right now. So those are the two. Then the Cade Klubnik comes in at 16th. This platform has Cade Klubnik's ranking at 16. Here's what they said. Again, this is from Sports Grid. They said that he had up and down 23 season, but it was his first as a full-time starter. He struggled mightily in the first half of the season, but flipped the switch on the back half, finishing the season 9-4. Offense was inconsistent, but Klubnik could utilize his legs more often and limit his turnovers. Clemson needs help at wide receivers, but hopes a pair of 5-star freshmen to help fill the void and elevate Klubnik to the next level. With experience under his belt, 24 should be a big step up for the junior. So they're projecting Cade Klubnik at 16. And this is one of the highest spots I've seen him be ranked. So finally people are starting to be like, nah, this guy's legit. Just because a couple bad years don't mean he's not good. So people are starting to put a little bit of respect on his name, have him over at 16th. I like to see that. I think that's a good spot. Do I think Cade Klubnik is the kind of player that Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence were, that was Heisman competing and possibly the best quarterback in the league during their time? No, I don't think he's there. I think he's great. I don't think he's at that point. So I think this is a fair spot. I might bump it up a little bit. I think he'll finish a little bit higher than this. But I definitely think he'll be a top 20 quarterback by the end of the year for sure. I think that, like I said, Coach Lucas came in, made the improvements on the offensive line. We have some injury bugs gone at the wide receiver spot. We've brought in 2 amazing freshman wide receivers with Wesco. And so I'm excited to see that. I do think his progression is going to be a little bit better. Just so you know, Sports Grid, who they had at the top spot, we face off week 1 against the number 1 quarterback against him with Carson Beck. He was last year was his first-year starter, but he played well. They have Jackson Dart with Ole Miss, Quinn Ewers with Texas, Dylan Gabriel at Oregon, and then Shadur Sanders at 5 with Colorado. So that's their top 5. Some other notable ones, Jalen Milroe with Alabama, he's at 7. The new freshman over at Tennessee, one of my favorite names is Amaliva. Fits perfect for college football transfer portal. But Nico Amaliva is number 9 over at Tennessee. And rounding out top 10 is Garrett Nussmeier from LSU. So that's them. Some other ACC schools ranked behind Clemson. You got to go a little bit farther back in the standings. But honestly, one that surprised me this high but makes sense is Haynes King over at Georgia Tech. He's at 21. And then the next one that I like to see, Boston College, Thomas Castellanos. Surprised he's this ranked, 25th best quarterback in all of college football according to Sports Grid at the end of the season. Boston College is projected to finish last in a lot of ACC rankings, but he's at 25. And then DJU, FSU quarterback, is now at 26. They ranked him as 26. So they're expecting Cade to play a lot better than DJU this year. Not a lot of people agree with there, but that's Sports Grid's take, and that is this year's quarterback rankings. So we're excited to see that. We're going to take a quick ad break, and when we come back, we're going to dive into more about the QBs for the future. So we'll be back in just a moment. We're so grateful for all of our sponsors, but one that we have to give a shout out to is Gametime. NBA Finals are in full swing. Dallas Mavericks are in a hole. They're down 3-0 after last night's game. Wouldn't it be exciting to be able to go to Game 4 on Friday tomorrow? Wouldn't that be exciting to go and see either Dallas start to make that comeback, possibly 3-0 comeback, maybe we've seen it before, or be able to see Boston win another championship and get a sweep? I'd love to go there. Well, Gametime is the place if you're going to go there. Gametime is the authorized ticket place for NBA, and they are the easiest place to go for all your ticket needs. Whether it's in advance or day of, prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seats, and their lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Again, wouldn't it be awesome to be able to go see Tatum and Luka match up, or Kyrie and Jaylen Brown? That'd be exciting to be able to go see that matchup in Dallas on Friday. If I was going to go, Gametime would be the place to buy those tickets. Some of my favorite things about Gametime is I love the fact you get 60% off when you're buying last-minute tickets. I also love the fact that every single seat gives you a panoramic view before you buy the seat, so you know exactly what you're getting with your ticket. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app now today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Welcome back to the Locked On Clemson podcast. I'm your host, John Bivens, over here. Hey, thanks for joining us. So we just talked about everything that was in the past with quarterback class for this year, 2024. We talked about that ranking. We talked about all that kind of stuff. So we're excited to see that. Honestly, I am one that I do have a lot of excited about the class this year. I think Clemson's going to make that turn. I definitely think we're going to get back to that 10-win season, and I think we're going to be in the college football playoffs. We'll talk about more of that in a second. We just talked about the class for 2024 quarterbacks. Now let's go through and talk about quarterbacks of the future. Let's go through and talk about quarterbacks of who's going to be under center the next couple of years. So next year, 2025, you've got to imagine that Cade Klubnik's still going to be the quarterback. Barring a transfer, barring anything like that, our quarterback room is going to stay the same, similar with Cade Klubnik, Christopher Venzia, and Trent Pierman. But we have a big-time commit coming next year that I'm really excited about. Next year, we are getting, or 2025, so next season, we will have another quarterback, Blake Herbert, who is going to come in, and he's committed to Clemson. He is out of Connecticut, Brunswick School. He's a bigger guy, 6'3", 205. He's an overall ranking at 90 composite score, 4-star rating according to 24/7 Sports. He's the 22nd quarterback in the class, 272 overall national ranking, second player out of Connecticut. He is committed to Clemson. Excited about that. Excited about what he's going to bring to the table. I'm really excited about this. He brought in, he picked Clemson over really three other schools. UConn was obviously heavily favored with the hometown favorite there. Auburn was in there with him, and Boston College was up there as well. But he selected Clemson, and Sports Illustrated had to have a sit-down interview with him earlier on this month. And listen to what he said. I love hearing what he's talking about. He's talking about how much he loves Clemson, and he says something that so many recruits and so many prospects say about Clemson of why they came, and he says that it was the family. When they asked him what drew you to Clemson, he really highlighted three things. One, he highlighted the family atmosphere. He highlighted that when you come to Clemson, the people that are there, Clemson. He said this quote. He said, "Clemson stood out to me due to their family-like atmosphere." So just the family atmosphere, the ability for everyone there to feel like they belong, how it's not just another team, it's not just another, oh yeah, I'll go to work with you. No, it's players coming together to be a family. So he highlighted that. He also highlighted the second part was in their desire to win while also doing what it takes to do that. He loves that Dabo Swinney is there to win. He loves that he is there to be able to be there and make a difference. He wants to be there and he wants to win. And so he's not going to go to a school that he doesn't want to win, right? He's not going to go to the school he doesn't think that's possible. He sees who Clemson is. He sees their history. He sees their ability. And so he's committed to Clemson. Excited about that. He said a big part of why he's going to Clemson is Dabo Swinney. He said this quote, and I love this. He said, at the end of the day, when you commit to a program, you're committing to the head coach. There's no other head coach I'd rather play for. Seeing the guys who have gone through the program successfully is pretty cool. I'm looking forward to getting home and working with Coach Swinney. Guys, he's a recruit, and he's already calling Clemson home. Love to see that. Again, this is a direct quote from Sports Illustrated. It was written by Evan Massey from that interview. But I love to see that. He is bought in. You can tell from this comment, read through this article, you can tell in hearing him talk in interviews, he's bought in. He is all in. So he's going to be entered in the mix next year. You've got to think that Cade will still be the starter with that senior. Dabo, until DJU, was really hard on holding on to the senior, holding on to whoever got seniority. So you'll probably expect Cade, unless he just lays an egg and continues going downward or doesn't go upward, probably expect to see Cade being the starter next year, but Blake Herbert's going to be there to give him a run for his money. And then 2026, I think we're going to have our Nets Trevor Lawrence. 2026, Cade will be graduated. I think we have a player coming in that's going to be the Nets, Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence, that nationally recognized player, quarterback, leading Clemson Tigers, that I think will be a starter freshman year, and he'll start throughout. So Blake Herbert, I hope he gets some spots. I think he's going to be great. I don't think he's going to be starting his sophomore year, maybe a game or two, because I think this recruit that is very favorited to land at Clemson is going to be starting, and that quarterback is Tait Reynolds. Tait Reynolds is a pro-style quarterback from Queen Creek, Arizona, and right now he is heavily favored to land at Clemson. In a recent interview, again with Sports Illustrated, this one was also written by Evan Massey, came out on Monday this week. He said this, when he asked about Clemson, he asked Reynolds about Clemson, Tait said this, he said, they're definitely the front runner for me. He said when he was talking about his visit, he said it was awesome. I'd say they have cool facilities and everything, but it's just the people there. It's a whole lot of love, everybody's family. So again, another prospect talking about this family atmosphere. There's something there. There's something special there. Later on in another episode this summer, we're going to highlight that about what makes Clemson stand out special. Their family atmosphere. Prospects talk about it over and over, but this guy is a beast. Tait Reynolds is someone special. He's going to be really good. Right now he's only a 4-star, but I easily could see him next year in high school, getting his last year in high school, seeing that bump up a little bit. I definitely think that'll be better. Right now he's got an 87 overall or 88 composite score in 24/7. He's a 3-star there, but he's a 4-star most other places. He said he is openly committed, not committed, but openly said that Clemson is his front runner. That's his number one spot to be at. But other places he's hearing stuff out: Arizona, Arizona State, Baylor, Boston College, BYU. He's out Midwest, so that makes sense, those schools. I will say this, and this might throw a little wrench. Clemson is favored to land for football, but he's already verbally committed to Arizona State to play baseball for them. So he's going to have a choice to make, football or baseball, and I think that'll come down to Clemson or not. But I think he's going to stick with football. I think he's going to come play with Dabo. He talked about in that interview about the magic. He was riding around with Garrett Riley and got to land, drove into the field, drove onto the stadium with him, and got to talk to Dabo, and that's what Dabo offered him. You can tell hearing what he's talking about how special he is. You can hear how bought in he is. You heard the family comments. Tait Reynolds is going to be great. He's another bigger guy, 6'3", 195, a little bit faster. He runs like a 4.6 40. He's trying to get that down a little bit. He's going to be good. When you go watch some of his highlights that 24/7's put together, he runs like there's one video that he literally runs through and drags like 4 players. He's huge. In 2023, he completed 54% of his passes for 1,800 yards, 11 touchdowns. He did have 11 interceptions in 11 games, but he also paired that with 600 yards rushing and 17 touchdowns on the ground. So he's got an arm. He's got the mobility. He could be good. So Tait Reynolds, I think he's going to be great. I think this player is going to be special. He's going to be the answer to this bouncing around quarterback play, not sure who's there. He's going to come in and be the locked-in starter for 4 years and play really well with Clemson. So that is our QBs of the future. We've talked about this year, talked about 24, and talked about 25 and 26. So we're excited about it. I think Clemson's in great hands. Garrett Riley, Dabo Swinney. Dabo's continuing to do what he does well. He doesn't transfer. He brings in great recruits. So excited to see that. Excited about the future. Clemson's in a great spot moving forward. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about our weekly segment of Turbulent Thursdays. We'll see you in just a moment. Sorry that you heard the little water break back there, but hey, thanks for the break. Thanks for coming back. Here we are on the Locked On Clemson podcast. Again, I'm your host, John Bivens. You can find us over on X at I am John Bivens. So every week, most days of the week, we like to implement weekly segments, right? Most Mondays, we do a Momentum Monday where we talk about momentum going through the program. Tuesdays, we do a Tracking Tuesday where we go through and we track different recruits, different transfers, that kind of stuff throughout the program. Wednesdays are our Worried Wednesdays. We talk about some stuff that really worries us when it comes to the state of the program. Fridays is our Flashback Fridays. That's just a fun segment where we talk about things that have happened on that day in Clemson history. And then to Thursdays, though, it's probably my favorite weekly segment, and it's the Turbulent Thursdays. What that is we go through and we scroll through the internet, we scroll through Twitter, we scroll through X, we scroll through all these kinds of stuff, and we try to dive in and see what is being said about Clemson that is just ridiculous. What is really being said, what is being out there on the internet, what's being talked about that is just completely a hot take. That is sometimes ridiculous, sometimes great, but just what's a hot take? What's making the waves? What's causing some turbulency when it comes to Clemson University? This week we want to talk about, of course, football, keep up the football, but we're also talking about some other stuff. The first thing that we've seen, and this has been driving me up the wall, is where people are ranking Clemson when it comes to 2024 standing. People are not having a lot of faith in who Clemson is going to be this coming year and where we're going to place. They're not having a lot of faith. They're not having too much to say about it. So last year, 2023, Clemson did end up placing 5th in the conference. They finished 4-4 in the ACC, 9-4 overall. Above them, according to ACC rankings, was Florida State 8-1, 13-1, or 8-0, 13-1. Louisville 7-1, 10-4. NC State 6-2, 9-4. Georgia Tech 5-3, 7-6, Virginia Tech 5-3, 7-6, and Clemson 4-4, but 9-4 overall. I've seen so many places that are saying that Clemson is going to be where they're at or even farther down in the ACC. I'm seeing people predict that Clemson is going to be behind Florida State, Louisville, NC State, Virginia Tech, Miami, Georgia Tech, North Carolina. I'm seeing so many programs come out that Clemson's going to be middle of the road or even lower ACC, and I'm like, what are you saying? There is zero chance that Clemson lands outside of the Final Four. Honestly, I think anything outside the top 2 in the ACC this year is a hot take because they've improved their team. You look at the weaknesses from Clemson last year. Offensive line, wide receivers, right? We fixed those holes. We fixed them dramatically. So I think anywhere outside of Clemson not landing in that top 2 spot is completely a hot take, is ridiculous. Having them finish 5th or worst is just a joke. It's like, are you watching? Do you even keep up with this? It's hard to say. So that's my hot take of the day. That's one of them, Turbulent Thursdays. There's no way that Clemson is at. Another one is this. So this year is the first year that college football has changed the playoff format. I'm really excited about this. So usually, the past couple of years, it's been a 4-team playoff, and the top 4 make the playoffs, and it goes well, all right? Florida State was a big one this year. They got snubbed. They went 13-0, won the ACC, and then did not make the playoffs as a Power 5, now Power 4 champion with the ACC champions last year. They didn't make it probably because their quarterback got hurt, and then they went and they got blown out by Georgia in the bowl game. I mean, it was ugly. But so they changed that up. They decided we're not going to have that controversy anymore. We're going to go and we're going to have a 12-team college football playoff. So how this works, how the 12-team playoff works, is the first week, numbers 1 through 4 get a 1-week bye. And numbers 5 through 12 will match up. ranks, and how it's ranked is the top 11 schools in the college football ranking get a spot, and as long as 4 of those are the Power 4 conferences. Each of the Power 4 conferences will win, I'm misspeaking. The 4 highest ranked conference champions in the college football championship or rankings will be seeded 1 through 4. So probably it's going to be the SEC, Big 10, Big 12, and ACC champions will be ranked 1 through 4 and get a first round bye. Then seeds 5 through 12 will be the next 8 or 7 highest ranking teams. So 5 through 11 will be the 7 highest ranking teams that were not a conference champion in the Power 4. And then the 12th seed, most likely 12th, could be higher, will be a Group 5 conference champion. So it could be Liberty winning their conference. A team like that coming in, getting a chance to play in the college football playoff. So that's how it works. The top 4 conference champions get a 1-week bye. 5 plays 12, 6, 11, 7, 10, 8, and 9. And then it goes on forward and it moves on. After that game plays, then seeds 1, the 1 seed will play the winner of the 8-9, 2 seed winner of 7-10, 3 seed winner 6-11, 4 seed winner of 5-12. And then after of those, of course, then they'll play each other for the championship. In those, these are going to be the bowl games. The New Year's 6 bowl games will now be the semifinals and then the finals. So those 6 games will be the New Year's 6 bowl games overall. And so this year, the college football champion will have not only be champion, but will also be a 2 bowl winner in the same season, which is interesting. Very different. I say all of that to say this. I've seen so many people say that Clemson's not going to make the playoff or not even come close, and I just don't understand. You look at Clemson last year, yes, we had a hard time. We went 9-4. We were a field goal in overtime away from beating FSU, who ended up undefeated. Not only were we a field goal away, we could have won it again in overtime, but Cade Klubnik made a poor mistake. Our defense slacked and had a poor coverage with a backup cornerback coming in after an injured cornerback. So there was multiple plays. Clemson lost that game. FSU didn't win it. So there was that. There was also multiple games that we lost that we just flat out shouldn't have lost. It was just dumb mistakes or it was fumbles. The Duke game, Duke played excellent. I'm not taking anything from them, but we fumbled so many times. We got to the red zone, I think 4 different times and didn't put a point up once. Like, that's pitiful. That you can't have that. We scored once later on, but we had 4 empty red zone trips. You can't have that. We lost those games for sure with turnovers and dumb mistakes. Dabo Swinney's not going to let that happen. And anyone saying Clemson is not at least going to be in the running for a 12-team playoff is absolutely insane. I mean, out of your mind. There's no way that's going to happen. So those were our two of our football Turbulent Thursday takes. One, Clemson not being ranked, honestly top 2, but I'll give you top 4 in the ACC. Because you're not there, hot take, dumb take. If you're saying Clemson not going to make the playoffs, or at least not running in the running for it, what are you doing? What are you even talking about? No, you're not right. So that's a hot take. Switching up a little bit, 2 more hot takes that I just want to briefly talk about today. One with baseball. Anybody saying that the umpire crew did not make a mistake during the Super Regionals, you're wrong. That's a hot take. Turbulent Thursday, you causing some waves, and it's dumb. There's so many mistakes they made. So many mistakes they made in that game that we'll talk about later on again. We also talked about in our last episode. Go give that a listen. But that was messed up. So if you're saying that they didn't make any mistakes, you're wrong there. And then the next one is basketball. We got announced yesterday on Wednesday that Clemson is going to be hosting Kentucky in the ACC SEC Challenge this coming basketball year. I'm seeing a lot of teams or people come out and just saying that that's an automatic win for Clemson or for Kentucky. Clemson's not going to do anything. They're going to be trash with it. What? Are we forgetting that this same Clemson team beat a Final Four team this year? Was competitive against another Final Four team this year, almost beat based on a poor foul call with Duke, another Elite 8 team this year. And we're going to be just as good next year with our transfers and everything. So you can't say that already. Clemson had a better season overall than Kentucky did last year. So I don't understand that you're just, chalk it up. No, whatever. You're forgetting all the success and everything Brad Burnell has built. So hot take, no, it's not a hot take. That's a dumb take saying Clemson or Kentucky's just going to destroy Clemson at Clemson without even thinking about it, having said anything. So those are our Turbulent Thursdays. That's our hot takes for today. And with all that being said, that is going to wrap up this edition of the Locked On Clemson podcast. Hey, Friday, we're going to talk about our Flashback Friday tomorrow. We're going to talk about some more football, maybe a little baseball. So we'll talk about more of that. But let us know your thoughts on today. Reach out to us over on Twitter. Email us over at thetigerwire@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your feedback on what we've talked about and everything with that. If you haven't, make sure you're subscribed to this podcast, wherever you get your podcast at. And if you're watching us over on YouTube, hit that subscribe button over there. That way, every single day, this can be your first listen here on the Locked On Clemson podcast. We can't wait to see you in tomorrow's episode. But until then, make sure you keep that Tiger pride alive and roaring. And as always, go Tigers.